You're listening to the official Push Square podcast featuring Ben and Ben. Do you push square?
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Push Square podcast. My name is Ben Potter. I am the video editor for pushsquare.com, and joining me as always, even though it's only been 4 times, is Ben Tarrant. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How you doing?
Bit tired, man.
Yeah?
WrestleMania was on Sunday night.
Oh, you pulled an all-nighter, didn't
I stayed up, felt a bit weird the next day.
Crazy boy.
I know.
On a school night, look at you.
Too old for this, man. Too old. But no, apart from that, I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
Dark Souls 3 is right around the corner.
Dun dun dun.
Very exciting. We've got a great show.
Yeah, we
As
do.
well today, we've got news. We've got Final Fantasy 15 is a thing. Naughty Dog is discussed. Something about a PS4 controller being modded for a disabled fan. That's discussed. Bioshock the Collection is probably definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Leaked Mass Effect Andromeda footage. We're going to discuss a feature about why the PS4K, or whatever it's called, PS4.5, that one, is either good or isn't good, depending on your point of view, of course. We have got editorial director of pushsquare.com, Damien McFerran, on to talk about his Dark Souls 3 review, which is now live. We've got Indie Bin. What's Indie Bin?
Indie Bin this week, we have Assault Android Cactus.
Excellent. Then we've got a few questions from the listeners, and then we're going to pack this up.
Go on.
Send it off into the sunset.
Fire it into the sun.
So let's get started. News time.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Uncovered Final Fantasy 15 release date, September 30th, 2016.
First up, Final Fantasy 15. This is one people have been waiting a long time for.
Well, you people.
Well, you people.
You people.
Oh, I see how it is.
I haven't.
You people.
You put this on the notes and I shrugged my shoulders. I'm afraid I haven't got a Scooby.
You write the notes and you somehow, this passed you by. The day when Push Square became Final Fantasy 15 Square.
And you authoritatively punched it in.
Every article, every photo, every video, even Sammy turned into a Final Fantasy character. It all went
Anime
off.
hair and everything.
This is the kind of thing. There's classic Square Enix, where they say, "Oh, please be excited. We'll have more news for you soon," and they don't. And then they put out a trailer that announces a date where they're going to announce the release date. It's absurd. But they had this big event. They announced it's coming out on the 30th of September.
Right.
They're going to have a standalone CGI movie.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
I like
setting
the
up
Final
the world.
movies.
Did you watch Final Fantasy Versus? Oh, not Final Fantasy Versus. Advent Children 7.
No,
7 Advent Children.
didn't watch that one.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
They're going to have, I think it's a 6-part anime series,
Okay.
which follows the characters, your little group of characters.
Sure.
Watch the first episode of that, by the way. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. And that's it's nice world building, because sometimes you can come into a Final Fantasy game and think, what the bloody hell is happening? They're throwing around all these made up terms and I don't know what's going on. But that seems like a really good idea.
Giving it some structure.
To bring people into it, yeah.
Yeah.
There are some insane special editions. One is about $250 or something.
What?
Yeah. Comes with a lock of the game director's hair.
A little glass vial.
And a toenail.
Oh.
But that's pretty exciting. I'm still not entirely so. Oh, there's also a demo as well, which you can go and download and play.
Platinum?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 15 Platinum demo or something which
like
is
that.
a bit confusing for trophy addicts, because you think,
Misleading.
I'm
Trophy.
going to play that. But it does have a purpose, and I like this. And I love it when games do this. It feels like you don't get demos anymore for games. Demos still go up on the store, but it never feels like a big deal. They're just there.
You get games pretending
So they said,
they're games and actually they're demos.
Ooh.
Ground zeros.
my goodness, shots fired. But this one, you play through to the end, and you unlock something in the full release.
It's like a pat on the back, like, well done.
And
Here's this.
So I haven't played the demo yet. I'm still not entirely sure, because I was absolutely burned alive by Final Fantasy 13, and what a boring sludge fest that was. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think they can afford to mess this up. Apparently it's got an insane amount of money behind it, with a film and anime and all sorts.
Yeah, they've got to break 10 million or something.
10 million sold in
Yeah.
its lifetime. In its lifetime, they might do that.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to push it hard, and they're going to have to absolutely nail this game. Which I hope they do.
They've had a while,
because
haven't they?
They've had a very long time.
You'd hope then.
Yes, I hope they do it because it's only a good thing for us, the gamers, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting into a Final Fantasy game that's good, which would make a change from recent games. But what's next?
So, onto a game that I am a bit more well versed with. Naughty Dog have said that they are going to resurrect some of the Last of Us 2 prototypes. So, as I understand it, Naughty Dog in their studio, they'd thrown about some ideas. Neil Druckmann had stated in an interview that they'd been throwing ideas around for Last of Us 2, obviously concept imagery and just creative ideas, and they were all shelved so that they could fully focus on Uncharted 4.
Oh, right.
Which is obviously once the single player has been put to bed, the single player DLC has been put to bed for that, they can kind of shift focus back, and he said that they're going to revisit these concepts, which obviously that's essentially a full-blown official confirmation of Last of Us 2 happening.
That's pretty much it then.
Yeah, everybody knew it was going to happen, but you know the brass didn't turn around and say.
I feel like they've said it a couple of times that no, there wasn't going to be another one. Maybe they didn't say it. Maybe they just said there wasn't going to be one with a grown-up Ellie or a direct continuation or anything.
There's been a few bits thrown around that they didn't want to. They felt that universe was finished, and that they felt that story was finished. But it's quite clear from this that they are going to be revisiting, which is great for me. I feel that there's a lot more potential in that universe.
It's a Naughty Dog game that you've played.
Yes,
which is nice.
Yes, I loved it. I played it through quite a few times actually. I think obviously a lot of people will say that Uncharted and Last of Us are almost synonymous. They're just different settings, but it was that different setting that really drew me in. That completely different, unrealistic almost, but still real setting.
Yeah, I feel like Uncharted is a completely different beast than The Last of Us.
Okay.
From a gameplay setting and from just a narrative seriousness, it's far more tongue in cheek and lighthearted. Uncharted.
Yeah. I liked that heavy emotion behind Last of Us.
I just like to feel things.
Oh, it got me, that game.
Just like to put pointy things in my arms, just so I can feel again. You know.
Oh my God, I'm not.
That's
not
straight from Terrence's journal. I've read it.
You found my diary.
What's this controller?
For a guy suffering with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
So basically, he had an issue where he would, the touchpad, a lot of the time that will pause games or bring up menus.
Okay. Yeah.
The center touchpad on the DualShock. And his condition, his disability, meant that he would be accidentally hitting it during playing. Right. And it obviously disrupted his play. And the design of the controller meant that he was unable to enjoy his games. And rightly so, he contacted PlayStation to see if there was some form of a resolution. And it kind of got passed around the departments until it fell on the lap of one of the engineers, and he just turned around and was like, I'm going to make this a personal mission of mine to make sure that we can help you.
Nice.
It turned out that he wasn't going to be able to for whatever reason, and he sent like a letter of apology and such, and then a few days later the controller turned up at this guy's house. Oh. And it's basically the touchscreen's still there, but it's been modified so that the back is where, like, underneath where you'd hold is where the touchpad's kind of functions have been moved to. So like first person shooter modifications, they normally put a little button on the back. Right. It's kind of that, which is really, really cool. It's cool that someone has taken that kind of time in their job, because
this guy was at Sony that did this.
Yeah.
Nice, good guy.
Really good guy. Give that guy a raise.
BioShock the Collection.
That's like happening.
That's been leaked
so many times.
Why haven't they just confirmed it?
I mean, a lot of the time confirmations are stuck to a schedule. They'll push forward if they really think that the cover's blown. At the moment, it's just been ratings, and you have to remember that companies sometimes chuck down ratings and copyrights and stuff like that just to keep hold of them, or just to know what they're working with, just to update ERSBs and stuff like that.
Even though it's called The Collection, it's not just BioShock.
Well, they might have an idea for it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's happening. They might just want to make sure.
It's going to be happening though, right?
Oh, it's totally going to happen.
It's going to be happening. Come on.
I mean, everything under the bloody sun has been remastered. why don't they remaster some good games like BioShock?
Yeah. I don't really
Basically.
want to play them again.
I'd fully go back and play. I'd skip 2.
Yeah, I don't think 2 would be included.
2 tried me the first time round. I don't think HD is going to change my mind on that. But I love BioShock, and I really, really enjoyed Infinite. Really enjoyed Infinite. It'd been long enough that I could fully invest myself in it, and I loved it.
I got a BioShock tattoo.
You do? You do.
Your phone is it's concerning me.
Oh, it's perilously placed on my thigh.
It's balanced on your leg, and your leg moves from time to time.
I'm going to move it.
And I feel like it's just going to fall on the floor.
I'm going to move it. There you go. It's moved. I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry.
Stressing me out. Finally, leaked Mass Effect Andromeda footage. So we haven't really seen anything from Mass Effect yet.
It's all
Seen
been
some
kind of quiet.
screenshots, some teaser trailers. This footage I've not watched because I don't want to watch it.
Okay.
Apparently it's very standard fare.
Yeah.
It's clearly from a couple of years ago, or thereabouts.
Right, so it's proper
And,
old alpha footage.
Yeah, it's just some explosions and stuff. I think the guy's resume it was taken from is a VFX guy.
Oh.
So it's probably just a demonstration of... So
What he can do.
It tells us nothing about the game whatsoever,
But you
but
still
it
won't watch
confirms
it.
that it exists and people are working on it, which I suppose is great.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find out something more concrete at E3 this
Yeah,
year.
definitely. 100%.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
This will be maybe the third E3 it's been at now with nothing.
Yeah.
Look at this concept art. Trees on another planet. Cool, thanks guys, that's great.
Yeah.
And then we
See you next year.
had a teaser trailer. It was like rousing speech, space, music, Mass Effect Andromeda. Now we're going to discuss a feature.
We are.
PS4K, PS4.5, whatever you want to call it. Staff writer Sam Brooks says it is not a good idea. He doesn't like it.
Thumbs
Editor-in-chief Sammy Barker, King Barker, says he trusts Sony to do the right thing.
Okay.
Where do you fall on this issue?
Personally,
Senator Tarrant, where do you fall on this issue?
well, I believe I
was that?
think it's ridiculous.
With those words?
No, not really.
Okay, alright.
I
Just
don't know.
senator noises.
Well, yeah.
In asterisks, makes senator noises.
I think it's a ridiculous thing to try and push out the door. I think it's just like it's spitting in the face of everybody that adopted the console early. It's basically saying you should have waited. Here comes a better one. And towards the end of the PS3's life, it felt like they were firing them out left, right, and centre. You know, Slimness, it's Ruby Red or Garnet Red or whatever the ridiculous name for it was. And even then, I'm looking at my fat console gathering dust. And
Yeah, but those didn't actually have any difference. on the
exactly, they were
internal
just visual.
workings.
But this is internally better, apparently. And I get that they're trying to develop something or push something out the door that marries better with PSVR. I get that, but I don't think it's right, especially this early on in a console's lifespan, to have a whole new console essentially, because that's what it is.
No, I actually fall on the other side of the fence here.
Okay.
Because I don't care if they make a better one. As long as the software catalogue is the same, I don't care. Because ultimately, it's no skin off our nose. It doesn't make any difference to us whatsoever. As long as we can play our game. And I understand where people might be concerned, because until Sony come out and clarify this, which they're going to have to do soon, because people are starting to freak out, and if they leave it too long, they're just going to really irritate everyone, which they may have already done. It may be irreparable. They need to come out and tell us what the deal is. But from what we understand, and from just using logical business sense on Sony's part, it would be insanity for them to split the software catalogue based on who's got the better PS4. And
that would be ridiculous. There's no way they'd do that.
Well, exactly. But I can understand why, until they confirm that is the case, or that is not the case even, why people might be apprehensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if there's a more powerful PS4 coming out, that does not in any way diminish your playing experience,
right,
then as far as I'm concerned, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to buy it, at least not straight away, because I've got a console and they're asking for what, like another 350 quid or something for an even more powerful one? I don't need to do that, because the big selling feature of this supposedly is 4K. I'm not buying a 4K TV as well. No. That's like a £600, £700 investment. And then a PS4 as well, another PS4. So I'm not going to buy one. It's clearly not going to be for me, but if they release one and it doesn't affect how I play the console that I've already got, then I don't mind. They can do what they want, just as long as they keep the user base together and they don't fracture it like I think the 3DS and the new 3DS.
Yeah.
They have a shared software library. I think, was there an announcement they were releasing a game that's only going to work on the new 3DS?
Yeah, there's several that only work on the new 3DS.
Which is a bad move in my books.
Horrible.
If you're going to do that, change the name of the console.
Yeah.
4DS, even though it's not 4D. Obviously,
Exactly.
That'd be ridiculous.
But exactly something like that. My biggest concern with this is that you're going to get games that will say they're 30 frames a second on PS4 and then 60 frames a second on PS4K or whatever it's going to be called. And they won't split it that much, but there'll be a disparity between them, maybe a disparity between your experience, and I'm going to feel cheapened being at the lesser end of that spectrum. Maybe that's my fear.
That's also a concern that I have, because they will want to make people. Then they'll have a duty to make people who bought the more expensive PS4 feel like it's worth their while.
Yeah.
So while it may truly not be possible on certain games to have it run at 60 frames per second on the current PS4, but it is on the other one.
On the better architecture.
Who's to say that some game where they could get 60 frames per second running on the original PS4, they're asked to not do that, because otherwise the PS4K owners have got nothing that makes their console worthwhile. That would be insanity if they did that, and people would lose their minds quite rightly, which, I don't think they would ever do that, ever. But again, it's a concern, we don't know because Sony haven't clarified it either way.
Put us out of our misery, Sony.
When do you reckon we'll find out?
E3.
We're going to have to wait until E3. That's a long time. It's a lot of conjecture.
It's not lot more. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that far away.
But given how much what we know has developed since it first leaked, like a month ago maybe? Or at least a few weeks ago? And now it's snowballed, and it feels like we know more than ever. Each week we're finding out something more.
Something else, yeah.
It's a long time for things to be leaking weekly and people to be speculating and freaking out.
Maybe their hand will be forced, and we'll find out. They'll have like a pre-E3 keynote or something.
Maybe, man.
Maybe. We can hope.
Anyway, that's all from that. Let's go and talk to Damien McFerran about Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls.
And now, joining us on the phone to talk about Dark Souls 3 is editorial director of Push Square, Damien McFerran. Hello, Damien.
Hello.
That job title, though.
I know. It probably sounds grander than it actually is.
Well, it means you get to review Dark Souls.
Yeah, I kind of pulled rank on that one, definitely.
Which is very exciting. I know I'm hugely looking forward to it. I don't know about you, Mr.
Yeah,
Terry.
I'm super looking forward to it.
Okay, so Damien, tell us, how is it?
It's great. It's great. I mean, I know some of the critical reaction online has been, it's more of the same. Mm-hmm. It's more Dark Souls. It's that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people were probably expecting something a little bit more revolutionary after Bloodborne, which obviously isn't part of the series, but it's like it's connected to the series. So it is kind of more of a traditional Dark Souls game, but for me, that's like, saying, well, it's more of something that's absolutely brilliant. So I had no issue with it whatsoever. I mean, they've used the power of PS4 to sort of like, expand the game in other ways, but it's the Dark Souls that, if you enjoyed the first one and the second one, I think you're going to be, more than happy with this one.
Brilliant. And I know for me at least, Dark Souls 1 was incredible. Demon's Souls was incredible.
Yes.
Dark Souls 2 felt like not so much a step back, but it was definitely missing Hidetaka Miyazaki, his influence. How is that in this? Is it sort of back on track, so to speak? Dark Souls 2 is still very good, obviously, but not...
Yes, yeah. I mean, this is the problem I kind of have, is because obviously Dark Souls 1 I played through and loved, and then there was Dark Souls 2, I love that as well, and then obviously there was the remaster, which I played through again. So it's kind of like that gave me a little bit more of an appreciation for Dark Souls 2 and some of the things that it did better than Dark Souls 1. One thing that I have noticed that is probably more prevalent in Dark Souls 3 than Dark Souls 2 is in Dark Souls 1 it felt like it was the whole interconnecting world element of it. Like there were some really clever little shortcuts, and areas would join up in unexpected ways, and that's definitely the case in Dark Souls 3. Probably not quite as much as Dark Souls 1. But there are some levels that, the joy of discovering a shortcut that basically cuts out, 20 minutes of fighting through really tough enemies, that's back in there now. Whereas Dark Souls 2 felt like there were a lot of sort of dead ends where you just use the bonfire to sort of like walk back to another point. So That's definitely feels more Dark Souls 1 than Dark Souls 2.
Brilliant.
So I've only played Bloodborne.
Right.
I haven't played 1 or 2. How does it compare to Bloodborne for someone coming in at this point in the series?
Yeah, you see, it's difficult. It's a tricky question to answer for me because I've not completed Bloodborne. I've only played a little bit of it, and it's something about it just didn't click for me, coming from the Dark Souls series. It is a very different kind of experience. Obviously, the core gameplay is still the same in terms of that you've got the risk and reward element. That do you go forward and you're collecting souls? Do you risk going forward a little bit further, or do you retreat back and then obviously reset the whole area and have to fight through again, but retain your souls? There's that whole mechanic. But what I love about Dark Souls and Demon Souls as well is that there's this whole lore and the whole fiction behind the whole world is just so developed. Every single item in it has got a story to tell, or every single garment has got like a description that about its history and everything, and that seems really deep in the Dark Souls series, whereas I don't think it was as much in Bloodborne. And also I think from a gameplay perspective, Bloodborne it had a lot of emphasis on the attacking, because obviously you could reclaim your health back if you got certain blows in. That's kind of absent in Dark Souls, and obviously you can have shields in Dark Souls as well, which you couldn't in Bloodborne. So in terms of the action, it's very different as well. You can be a bit more methodical in Dark Souls, and I kind of prefer that.
Right. Okay. Now, obviously, you said you weren't such a big fan of Bloodborne, but I've been trying to avoid footage, trailers, anything really to do with Dark Souls 3 because I want to go in fresh.
Yeah.
But I did catch someone at work was watching a stream of someone playing Dark Souls 3, and it seemed to be really fast, like surprisingly Bloodborne levels fast. Does it?
Yeah.
Has the whole game been sped up, or does it still? Is it sort of a blend and it allows for different approaches in terms of character and class? Yeah,
I think that's the best way to describe it. It's definitely a blend. It's not got that. It's not got the same sort of like breakneck pace that Bloodborne had. Mm-hmm. You can still slow things down if you want, but they've clearly taken elements of the combat in Bloodborne and the speed of the combat and brought that into Dark Souls 3. Because I know there were people who did have issue with the fact that if you've got a pretty heavily armored character with a big weapon in that sounds rude, but it shouldn't be. If you're fairly kitted out in the first two games, there would be a trade-off there in terms of your speed. Obviously, that still is the case in Dark Souls 3, but you do seem to have a greater degree of control over the character. In terms of it's easy to sidestep attacks and stuff like that, and they've reduced the parry animation has been sort of tightened up a little bit over Dark Souls 2. So that makes it feel a little bit faster as well.
Now, you've been playing it without the servers being turned on, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. They're still not live as of today. I have been told that we will be getting access soon. Mm-hmm. But, so I've been playing totally single player, which for me personally is a little bit of a handicap because I don't know whether I should admit this or not, but Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, I probably would never have finished were it not for the fact I've relied heavily on other players coming in and helping.
Absolutely. And I think players that sort of belittle people who go through with the assistance of summoning is kind of silly.
What's the phrase? Get good? You got people
get
good.
GIT good. Yeah, I know. I hate that attitude. I think that's stupid. I mean, it's incredibly rewarding playing it through anyway.
It is.
And you should have a respect for people who play it through without summoning in people. But you're just ignoring a gameplay mechanic, really, and you shouldn't hate on people for using it. So it must have been very difficult for you then.
It's been very tricky. I've had to redo bosses, 10 or more times over, and you have to learn all the patterns. And I mean, it is. There's a lot of people who say, surely it's just really, really bad design. But I mean, once you do learn the pattern. You can get
best game ever made.
Exactly. You can get through some of these boss battles without taking a single hit, but it's just learning. And I think games are too easy on us now. They make it too easy for players to sort of just pick up. In your average game, like an FPS, you die. You don't lose any lives. You just reset back to sort of 5 minutes before where you died.
Right.
Whereas Dark Souls is more sort of like old school in terms of there is a real punishment to sort of failure. Mm-hmm. And that obviously makes it more tense and it makes it more rewarding when you do actually get past a certain point.
Yeah. How long have you clocked up so far, approximately?
I've done about 25 hours.
Nice.
So I've not managed to quite get. That's why we've sort of put it on score pending at the moment, because we're we want to make sure we're getting the full experience on there.
Of course.
But I think I sank 70 hours into the first Dark Souls, and then probably a little bit less into Dark Souls 2. It's one of the few series that I will just, put everything else aside for and just play non-stop.
Right. Does it look like there's a lot of optional stuff in this game, sort of areas that you may... I mean, obviously it's difficult to know at this point because the guides and the wikis aren't up yet, but have you noticed things that you didn't have to do that may actually be...
I mean, I think
quite a lot of value on.
That's the joy of it. I think you can play through it without looking at those guides, and you probably wouldn't even realise you were missing things. But then when you do get the guides, you realise, if I went here, I could have got this item, or there was an optional path here. So I think there's definitely things that I'm missing in my urgency to sort of get through it.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the other games definitely had that, and I can't see this being any different. And I know, there's little items, certain items that you can only get from certain characters, and you've got this whole thing about there's friendly characters in it, but you can obviously, if you want to, attack them, and then they will give you items as well. Yeah. But then that character is then gone for the rest of the game. So, there's whole layers upon layers of complexity in there.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously, with Bloodborne, my experience, the bosses, you mentioned them, they were ridiculous. You said doing them over 10 times.
Yeah.
Bloodstar Beast actually took me nearly a week to do because I just didn't lock in that routine. Exactly.
A week. I think even if I love the game to bits, I think a week is probably pushing it. I'd have given up and gone on something else by then.
It was a challenge I had to beat, and I felt amazing. I guess that's what you were saying. The difficulty with these games, the reward for beating those guys is amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely a key feature of it. I think one of the things I've taken from Bloodborne is the bosses this time around have got sort of multi-stage things. Like I'll give an early example. There's a boss that you fight where the first half takes place above ground, and then halfway through the battle, the floor gives way, and you're fighting on a different part. I think that's something they borrowed from Bloodborne, rather than... I don't think they had that as much in Dark Souls 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the bosses... There's definitely been a lot of effort put into them. I mean, I know one person, I've read sort of critical stuff around on the internet, and one person did point out, saying, what's the point of making a boss that you can kill really easily? They want you to be spending a lot of time on these bosses, and that certainly seems to be the case. Learning patterns, and you'll be halfway through a fight, and then the boss pattern will switch completely, which means you've then got to learn a whole new set of moves to counter it.
Now, one of the things I absolutely loved in Dark Souls 1, it didn't happen so much in Bloodborne, but in particular the mimic chests in Dark Souls 1, where there was a way to tell, there were subtle cues, but essentially, Tarrant, they were chests that looked like normal chests, and when you opened them up, they were actually monsters, and they ate you, and they killed you. I love that kind of stuff in games where it just sort of flips your sense of safety on its head.
Yes.
Is there anything more like that in Dark Souls 3?
Yeah, there is. There's in one location that springs to mind. You've got these sort of like cages which are full of corpses, which obviously sounds really pleasant. But the location you're in is absolutely full of these things, and most of them are inanimate. But the one that made me absolutely crap my pants, I was just walking past it, and then it suddenly springs to life, and all these arms and legs are like flailing around trying to hit you.
Oh my
so
God.
From that point onwards, whenever I was walking down a corridor, I'd be sort of like tentatively jabbing it, stabbing each one just to make sure that it wasn't going to come to life.
What is the trophy list like? I got the platinum in Bloodborne, and
of course you asked that.
in Demon Souls, and I didn't quite get it in Dark Souls. But what's it like? How many have you got?
This is where I'm going to show off my my sort of like novice level PlayStation.
Okay.
Because obviously, as you know, as the listeners might not know, I'm more involved with our sister site, which is Nintendo Life.
Yeah.
I'm not as seasoned a PlayStation gamer as you two chaps are. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, I've only noticed it's unlocked trophies when I've joined certain covenants, and it's unlocked trophies when I've defeated certain bosses.
Okay.
But there doesn't seem to be... I've not really unlocked any sort of like bonus ones yet.
Right.
along the way, like little optional ones that you might get. Basically, the ones I've unlocked are sort of like place marker ones that you'll unlock anyway as you move through the game. So I've not really had a good chance to explore that yet. I'm not, like I say, I'm not a big trophy chaser. So,
I think there's a harsher word for it that most people would use than chaser. Yeah. Well, brilliant. Your review is up now on pushsquare.com. It's I think it's score pending, isn't it? Because we're waiting for the servers to be turned on, that sort of stuff.
It's very much a work in progress at the moment. We're going to wait until the servers get switched on, and then it's going to get another run through, and it's going to get a lot more added to it because obviously the online side of things, as we've discussed, is such a major part of the Souls games, and I certainly couldn't imagine reviewing a Souls game fully without actually having explored the online stuff. Because one point they have added for this is, in Bloodborne they added the code-based system, so you could actually you could match up with your friends, which obviously the previous Soul games didn't do because it was always random. Which I kind of didn't mind to a certain degree, because it was, as long as you knew you were fighting alongside, another human player, that was all that made the difference. They have actually added that to Dark Souls now as well. There's a password system that you can put in that means you'll be summoning in people that you know. So obviously I need to test that out as well.
And also being invaded as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the other thing. I mean,
which
again,
that's horrible.
That's the other thing. That's why I'm a little bit sad that they've brought a code system in, because there's nothing more terrifying than seeing that message come up saying you've been invaded, and you don't know the skill level of the person who's invaded you. You don't know anything about them. All you know is it's another player that's had the balls to sort of come into your game, and now they're hunting you down. And that's it's one of the most terrifying experiences I think I've ever had in gaming. And obviously, the feeling of actually repelling an attacker as well is also incredibly satisfying. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
I'm not going to lie. When I was playing Dark Souls, it did get to the point where whenever I'd get invaded, I'd very quickly press the XMB button and just sign out, because I just could not. No, I didn't even rage quit. You are being returned to the main menu. You have lost access to it. So that's fine. I will continue offline for a little while.
I was going to lose them anyway. Well, it's amazing how many people. Thomas Whitehead, who's the editor of Nintendo Life, he's kind of been on the fringe of getting into these games.
Right.
And he's basically said to me today, I'll get it, but I'm going to just play offline. That's because he just doesn't want to have. He doesn't want.
But he's not going to see any of the notes or anything.
Well, this is the point I made to him. I said you've got to really play online for the full experience. But he's so terrified of people coming into his game. Well, maybe not terrified. I think he doesn't like the idea of these idiots coming in and
just
sort of ruining his
experience.
Game.
Yeah. Okay. But you can have so many amazing moments. I remember one in Bloodborne when I was playing with a friend and I got invaded, and we had this sort of standoff at either end of a corridor where he was trying to get us to come to him, and we were trying to get him to come. And then we all just sat down on the floor, just staring each other out. Then I chased after him because there were some enemies beyond him, and I told my mate to stay where he was. He ran up the stairs to the enemies. I hid in an alcove of this little tunnel, and then as he ran back down again, I stabbed him in the back, and it was amazing. You miss all those moments if you play offline.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't miss any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. But anyway, I think the game is out next week. Is that right? In the UK
and it is. I think it's the 12th.
And the States as well. So Tuesday. It's very soon. I'm very excited.
And everybody, keep their eye on the site for hopefully the finished review
coming soon.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Damien, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat with us about it.
Thank you, Damien.
Thanks for having me on.
Cactus, and I'm on approach. Listen to me, Cactus. There's no way on board.
I think I see an opening. It's okay, folks. I do that kind of thing all the time.
So this brings us to Indie Bin.
Oh yeah, Two games are out Indie Bin. One game is Indie Bin. What's up? What's happening?
This week we've got Assault Android Cactus.
Assault Android Cactus.
I'm going to slip up and say arse somewhere in this.
Well, you just did, so well done. What is this?
This is it's a twin stick shooter. So think kind of Dead Nation from Housemarque.
Yep.
But
you said that right as well.
I did. Yeah, I've been practicing. But not anywhere near as good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's basically it's hectic, it's colourful, it's bold, it's a bit childish, and it doesn't bring that much new to the platform of the twin stick. There's no real differences with
Okay.
anything else.
What is the sort of setting? What's the theme? Is it
Basically-
are there cacti in it? Is it a desert or is it?
No, the character's called that, but essentially
He's
you're
called Cactus.
Assault Cactus, like
Assault
Android Cactus. Sorry.
And Android Cactus.
Obviously, because that makes sense.
But he's not a cactus.
No, it's not a cactus, which
Okay.
probably would have been quite comedic and quite weird to watch.
Possibly.
Cactus wrecking everybody with laser guns. You're on a ship that's in trouble and you need to get to the centre of the ship. Each level is like a layer of the ship.
Okay. No lift.
No.
They could just take you.
You know,
No.
how long have we had escalators? No, you've got to blast your way through every level,
Yeah, okay.
of which there are 25, I might add.
Okay.
It doesn't do much different.
Right.
It does have this clever kind of battery element. So you are an android, so you are powered, and each level has this kind of battery timer that means you've got X amount of time to finish it. So there's this kind of added pressure.
Right.
You can collect charge for your battery to kind of elongate the timer,
Right.
which means you obviously can finish the level. But often taking that route to receive the charge is more difficult. So it's a kind of really basic risk-reward thing going on. Of the 25 levels, they're all quite samey. I think there's only so much you can do with the innards of a ship.
Okay.
And that very much shows. You play the first few and it's fun, it's vibrant, and time goes on and you start to feel a little bit more of the kind of quality over quantity situation.
Right. So it just sort of extends its life, not necessarily too naturally.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
There's another cool aspect of it that adds to the risk reward, that when you die, your weapon progression resets. So when you're blasting your way through a level, XP will kind of go towards your weaponry and they'll level up and become more powerful and such. And when you die, that resets. It's a cool mechanic, and it gives some degree of penalty to dying, which is so absent nowadays in games. It's more like respawn, kind of like 5 seconds back and then keep going.
Yeah.
I must admit, it's pretty plagued with difficulty spikes. Even though the levels feel repetitive, it definitely gets harder in places it shouldn't.
Right.
And for a game that should be this kind of mindless shooter, I think there's too much thought that needs to go into it in something with such basic mechanics.
It sounds like you sort of condemned it a bit there.
Yeah, contrary to the 7 out of 10 from Simon Fitzgerald, I don't like it. I don't
like it?
No, I don't. I don't.
So
at all.
what is its fate?
It's indie bin.
It's staying indie bin.
It's staying indie
2
bin.
for 2.
I'm
That's
going
not
on a
necessarily
warpath.
true. It's 2 for 4 really, but
Technically, yeah.
So 2 for
2 in a
4
row.
remaining indie bin.
Yep, it's getting cozy in there now.
Step up, indie games. You've got something to prove now. 7 out of 10 pushsquare.com. Ben Tarrant says it's indie bin. Let's move on to some questions. So, audience questions time. These are taken bi-weekly, that's not even right, fortnightly.
It is bi-weekly. That's still bi-weekly.
Is it?
Yeah. Every other week is bi-weekly. Technically also fortnightly.
I suppose you're right.
They're all synonymous.
Yeah.
Words.
English is weird, isn't it?
It is really weird.
English language is weird.
Scones, scones. Where do you sit on that? Scone?
Scone.
Scone.
Scone, yeah.
Yeah.
You say potato or potato?
Ugh, I'm not a cretin.
Potrato. Potratus. Expecto Patroto. Anyway, questions. So these are taken bi-weekly from our
Bi-weekly.
forums, pushsquare.com/forums, and we are stickied right to the top of the online community section. Alternatively, if we posted in there and asked for questions, we may well be on the front page of pushsquare.com in the recently posted in forum post bit on the side of the page. Now, we've got a few questions here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you awake? We've
Yeah.
got a few questions here. First one is from Dermeister, who has spelled his name for us.
He
which is nice.
spelt it out for us. We've been getting it wrong every episode.
What's the first question?
The Maester asks, thoughts on PlayStation Plus offerings? are they worth what we're paying?
No.
Really, you think that?
No, just, I mean, financially, yes.
Right.
In terms of, are you actually going to play them?
Right.
Are you getting your money's worth?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You're not.
Right.
At least I'm not. Are you?
So...
Are you playing these games? All of them?
No. I have them. I download them all. I do my monthly jump on there, download, add it to my library, life goes on.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
All I'm doing now is adding them to my library. I'm not playing them.
But my point, this is a pet peeve of mine, this whole argument. This every month, the PlayStation Plus offerings get completely condemned, and it drives me insane.
Before you continue, I was on your team to begin with.
Right.
When the PS4 came out and people were saying, why isn't like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty on there, man? So of course it's not, because the PS4's only been out for like a week. Let it go. Yeah? And now how many years are we in? Like 2 or 3 years in?
Two.
Still getting those indie games. Are you really telling me you can't, not that anyone would want to play it, but are you really telling me you can't afford to put Assassin's Creed Unity on there? Are you honestly telling me that?
To be fair,
Are you telling me you can't put a Saints Row title on there?
I've been Shadowfall.
Shadowfall could have gone on there. Knack could have gone on there. You know, these games that are a year or so old that are from annualized franchises that they can't be making any money off at this point.
Yeah.
Why on earth wouldn't you make a deal with it? They need to drop the Vita games. I'm sorry, but it needs to happen. It just does. Who is playing these indie games that are only for Vita? Who are you?
Me?
Who are these people?
Occasionally.
I think they need to drop it. They need to drop that. Only one title per month on PS3, because it's still optional on PS3 to have PS Plus. Beef up the PS4 stuff, because it's mandatory to have Plus to play online. And I know technically you get online for that, but as I said, PS3, Vita, you can play online without PS Plus.
Yeah.
So they need to make it worth our while. I'm just adding these games to my library. It doesn't bother me, because I do play online. It's just something I've factored into the cost of owning a PS4.
Yeah.
It's like, oh cool, some new games this month. Am I going to play any of them? Probably not. I wouldn't have had time to play them anyway, but I still think there's definitely room to improve them. And I'm sorry I went off on that tangent, because I cut you off mid-sentence. Right. Please carry on.
I don't know, you've somewhat changed my tune, but what I will say is it needs to step up now. It didn't. Right up until Games with Gold offered Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah.
That for me is a real turning point, both in my opinion and I think everybody else's, because that was a big title to go onto Games with Gold.
On Xbox One.
Yes.
They're doing it right.
That's a good decision.
They've taken Sony's mould and they're doing it right by offering fewer titles. From what I understand, I think it's one Xbox One game and one Xbox 360 game. Yeah. They're able to offer quality.
Yeah.
They are. And something that's used in defence quite a lot of PS Plus, and I've used it before as well, is that they exhausted all their good titles because PS Plus has been around for so long. Not on PS4.
No.
On PS3,
no.
Possibly. There aren't any new big games coming out on PS4. They can do it. They just need to change their approach to what they're trying to offer, because at the moment they're trying to do too much, and by trying to offer too many games, they're having to limit what they're offering, and there's a drop in quality there.
I agree. I will then also like to add that although it is such an indie fest, it's huge for those indie developers.
I'm sure it is.
This might be their first game, and it's a method of
guaranteed money.
Yeah, and guaranteed exposure. You're going to be in the game library of hundreds of thousands of people.
That's great.
Whether or not they play it,
that's really good, different. And I'm really happy for you, and I'm gonna let you finish. But the quality,
going all Kanye on me here.
The quality of these indie titles are all over the place. Some are really good.
Yeah, they're not all Firewatches,
are
they?
Just poor, and it's great, that these people are getting an opportunity, and sometimes they're good indie games. They're solid games, but
definitely.
They're just games that, because I got it for free, technically free, I assign no real value to it, so I'm likely, if I'm going to touch it at all, I'm going to start it up for 2 minutes, and then that might be it.
Yeah.
And I know that indie developers don't necessarily care about that, because, strictly speaking, they've got their paycheck, and it's in your library, you've played their game, that's great. Yeah. But for me, these titles need to be better. They just need to be better. And they can do it.
Yeah.
They've got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, Shadowfall or Knack, as we've mentioned before, they're two titles that... I mean, I saw Shadowfall in a pre-owned store today for like £3.
There was a glitch where you could get it for free on the store at one point.
Ridiculous. I agree to that.
I'm just looking through my games library, right? Infamous First Light. That was on Plus, wasn't it, actually? Having just said that. Anyway, thank you for that question.
That obviously hit a nerve.
Demeister. Needed to get that off both our chests. Next up, Rudy Manchego.
I love the name.
Which is a great name. What dead franchise would you most like to see resurrected?
Well, it was going to be Doom. Because
you got nothing left to live for, have you?
No, that's it. Once that's out, I'm done. I'm throwing
Jump
the
out
towel.
a window. Time Splitters.
Oh crumbs! Yeah.
Time Splitters.
Yeah. That's my answer.
I love
as well.
Time Splitters.
Yeah. God.
PS2. Loved that. That was the party game. That was the reason me and my friends had a multi-tap.
Yeah.
Other people playing Halo, we were playing Time Splitters too. Time Splitters is Future Perfect. While strictly speaking, not as good as Time Splitters 2. I loved the graphical upgrade. I loved the story and how humorous that was.
Yeah,
and the fact that you could play through all of it in co-op. Same with Time Splitters 2's story though. Just brilliant.
So good. Such a good
fantastic
game.
series. Such a shame that Free Radical had to go and make that diarrhea of a game, Haze. It's just poor.
That's ridiculous.
And it's a shame. And Free Radical actually got bought by Crytek UK.
Yes.
By Crytek, it became Crytek UK, who I think are still around. They may have been shut down as well now, but certainly the original developers would have moved on by now. Don't know where they are. I feel like there's been talk forever about a fan HD remake of Time Splitters 2.
It won't happen.
Put it on PS3, PS4. Give it the bully, give it the GTA 3 treatment where they add trophies and just sort of give it a lick of paint.
Yeah, that'd be so good.
And I would buy that.
That'd be so good.
I'd buy the crap out of that, but I'd love a Time Splitters 4.
Actually, saying that, Spyro.
You want a proper Spyro reboot?
I want a Spyro reboot.
I don't want a PS2 Spyro reboot.
No,
I want a PS1 Spyro reboot.
I want it proper old school Insomniac.
I need that.
Yeah,
I need
that'd be wicked. That too.
Next question.
So this comes from Hago. 3 things on our E3 wish list. So we mentioned E3. We quite like Mass Effect.
I haven't even thought about this. Yeah, Mass Effect would be good. Love some Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I'd like a release date for Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
And I'd like them to revamp Plus, come out, be totally honest about what a shambles their service is, their PSN service in terms of its stability and quality, and I want them to just address it, just do a PlayStation Plus State of the Nation kind of thing. Where it's like, we've got some issues, we've had a lot of downtime, here's what we're doing. We're scrapping it all, and we have actually already done this. Starting from midnight tonight, you're going to have a new, better service. We're going to do new games for you. You've spoken to us, and we've listened to you, which makes PlayStation the best place to play. That's what I want him to do. What's his name?
Mark Thingy House.
Andrew House.
Andrew House.
Andrew House.
I was going to say Mark
here
Cerny. It's the other guy.
Talk about PlayStation 4 at E3.
The best place.
The best place to play.
I'm so enjoying this.
That's what I want them to do. And I'm sure if I sat down and had a proper think, I could come up with some more fantastical things that I'd like. But those are
off the top of your
three
head,
relatively relevant things to what we've been discussing today.
I'd probably say I would like something Fallout and Obsidian. So I've seen like a lot of rumblings about Fallout New Orleans.
That would be exciting. Obsidian did a better Fallout game than Bethesda did.
Apparently.
I love New Vegas.
It didn't work on the PlayStation.
Apart from the fact it didn't run.
It didn't work at all.
I thought New Vegas was fantastic.
Yeah,
Survival
I really
mode
liked
and stuff.
what
I know
I could
it's
play.
coming to Fallout 4,
Yeah.
but I loved it. I thought it was great.
But looking at the release kind of schedule, so Fallout 3 was 2008, and then
New Vegas 2011?
New Vegas was announced April 2009, I believe, and
Oh,
released
really?
October 2010.
Oh, brilliant! Because that's something I felt like I completely missed. I wasn't excited for New Vegas.
Yeah,
I didn't know much about New
it
Vegas.
came out so quickly afterwards, less than a year. So
yeah, and then
it was released. Sorry, announcement was
didn't even get it at
so
launch.
quick. So
just thought it was brilliant. Played all the DLC again. Fantastic DLC
Yeah,
plan for
brilliant
that game.
DLC.
So much
Brilliant.
of it. Just a shame it didn't run.
yeah, just broken.
Yeah.
So I'd like confirmation of partnership with Obsidian because they left on pretty bad terms after New Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, they were told that if they could hit an 85 on Metacritic, they'd be given a bonus, and they hit 84.
Oh, that is a...
And Bethesda, unlike other
That
companies...
game was better than 84 in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
Bethesda did, like, they revoked their offer for the bonus, which, to be fair, they said 85.
That
And they didn't
is...
get it. It sucks, but...
Any kind of leeway, though, blame
Yeah.
Polygon. Probably their fault.
So yeah, I'd like that. Going forward with Bethesda as well, I would like a lot more on Dishonored.
To show no red.
Yeah, that one. I'd like a lot more on Dishonored 2, because I loved Dishonored.
Dishonored was fantastic.
It was so good. And
Another
actually,
rapid launch.
to be fair, I think by the sounds of it, my E3 is just going to be the Bethesda keynote, because...
It was so good last year.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to hear about Elder Scrolls 6.
New one.
Yeah.
It is too soon, surely.
No. How is it too soon?
Because they only announced Fallout 4 last year.
Yeah, and it's been 10 years since Skyrim? Wait,
Do your maths, mate.
I can't do maths. It's been 10 years since Oblivion. So it's been
Yeah.
2011, so it's been 5 years.
Been 5 years, in which time they've been working on Fallout 4. They'll be working on it.
They might, even
I
if they
think-
chuck a logo up.
But that's
just
not
say
how
it's
Bethesda
happening.
does it. That's not how
No,
Bethesda
they're
does it.
doing shorter release schedules now,
They'll
aren't they?
say, oh, it's Elder Scrolls 6 and it was in shops yesterday. Ah!
Which I think is a wicked way of doing things.
Yeah.
It's such a great way of doing it.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, and there's going to be some complicated numbers based on the Elder Scrolls name. It's coming out on the 6th of June, 2006. Wait, hang on.
Damn it.
We missed our window! Skip to Elder Scrolls 17! It's the only way we can do it.
But yeah, I'm just going to watch
Bethesda's keynote was fantastic. But the big thing about Bethesda's keynote last year was the presence of Fallout 4 and just how much they showed of it.
Yeah, it was wicked.
So apart from that, I wasn't too into that keynote. But yeah, they really pulled out the bag last year, so I'm excited.
Yeah,
Find
me
out what's
too.
gonna-
Me too.
Finally, last question again from De Meester. What's the hardest platinum you've ever got? How many platinums you got?
One.
One, and what's that?
Skyrim.
Man, it's not a bad platinum.
I'm proud of it.
It is,
proud of it.
Technically speaking, it is the hardest platinum you've ever got.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of
117 hours.
Really?
Yep.
Didn't take me that long.
I took the
it did
scenic
take me that
route.
long.
I took the scenic route. I finished the game, did everything I could think of that I wanted to do in the game,
And then looked
sat
at the
back, and
trophies.
then looked at the trophies. So I
had
did
to
take the full
start
scenic
another
route.
character to
Oh,
get the
really?
platinum because something messed up in the Dark Brotherhood, I think, and I couldn't get the
I
trophy.
hate it when that happens.
Yeah, it was really annoying.
So what about you, man? You've got a rather large
Yeah,
choice here.
I've got 99.
What?
Now, some of these are poor, I must admit.
Don't you have a Hannah Montana one?
I have a Hannah Montana the
Oh,
movie, the game.
God.
It's in my bio on the site. Now that was a period that is behind me, and I would say that
Dark
roughly
days.
maybe 20 games in my platinum list are terrible,
That's not
which
terrible.
is not a bad
odds.
ratio, is it? That's still
I
like
can't
good,
judge. I've got one.
good 80 old games, and because there are so many, I often forget which ones were the hardest. But
Block them from your memory. Bloodborne must have been difficult.
I've got three that I will say. Bloodborne was challenging only because Bloodborne itself, the game was challenging.
Chalice
Trophy-wise,
dungeons.
it wasn't too bad. The Chalice
Okay.
dungeons were awful and boring affairs. That was really what the problem was. And the bosses in there were cheap.
Yeah.
They're one-hit kill bosses. They're just
ridiculous.
awful. Mass Effect 2
Okay.
was a very difficult platinum because the hardest difficulty on that game was madness.
Was hard difficulty.
It was
difficult.
it was very difficult. Difficult is putting it mildly. My character class had a skill where he could go invisible, and that's how I'd win.
Nice.
I would sprint to the next checkpoint trigger, and largely that's how I had to do it. Again, there were sections where you did have to fight through it, like bosses and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It was so difficult, so difficult. And also Spec Ops: The Line,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic game, had an incredibly difficult hard mode. Usually it's just hard modes that are the real killer. I'm sure I've got other hard platinums, but those are the two that spring to mind at the moment.
They've got to be pretty difficult then.
They're very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard.
I'm to be fair.
Like
I'm
throw
close.
controller at the wall hard.
Really.
Yeah.
I'm really close to getting the Fallout 4 platinum. I'm like 3 trophies away from that.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it in under a month, mate.
Alright. My Brotherhood of Steel quest glitched.
No.
Yeah,
With
so
Macklemore.
Not with
The leader
Macklemore.
of- the
I've
leader
got his
of-
coat now. I'm so happy.
The leader of the Brotherhood of Steel, Macklemore.
No, it was
Return
I
of the
had
Mac.
just like flying a vertebrate. No, I had to speak to somebody, but her conversation wouldn't take me to the quest line, it would take me to something else, so I couldn't progress. Did the old wiki, and it was just like, yeah, this happens if you do this on this, and you backflip 3 times, and this happens. So I'm having to do a new character. You've got to do the backflip.
That's the only way it'll work.
Really close to Rocket League Platinum.
Yeah.
I'm like 3 trophies from that, and I hadn't played it at the beginning of recording podcast
Brilliant.
1. So you should be proud.
I'm very proud. It's very easy playing. I'm very proud. Well done.
Sure, man.
Number 2, just right around the corner, man. It's good stuff. Anyway, let's move on to the end of the show.
So, coming up on pushsquare.com, we have the official Dark Souls 3 score when they finally turn the servers on.
Coming soon.
Get a feel on that. Probably going to do some guides on that as well.
Yeah,
Tell
I'm
you
sure
where to go, what
Mr.
to do.
McFerran will be absolutely spamming those. Now, do you want to read the notes here that Sammy has written based upon what games are being reviewed soon?
I was going to try and avoid this.
So this is associate editor he's talking about in this sentence.
So Robert Ramsey has, I'm going to quote here, Ramsey's got some weeaboo reviews coming.
Yeah.
That's on our notes from King Barker. So sorry, but that's happening.
So was that like a Dragon Ball or a...
Yeah.
Or one of them Naruto.
There'll also be some...
Depends how much I have to spend. I'll read, it's me, Robert Ramsey.
You're killing it on the voices today.
Thanks, bro.
I love it.
No, not even. Robert's probably just sitting there like, I hate you. I bloody hate these guys.
Just throw a margarita at him.
Yeah, Robert's allergic to pizza, as we discovered when we went to
EGX a few years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. He ate too much pizza. We went out to a club.
Basically died.
And he was in that state where he couldn't be ill, but he wanted to be ill. And he was stood outside the club, and we were sort of looking at him from the smoking area. And people were like, "Oh, is he okay? Has he had too much to drink?" He's like, "No, mate.
No, he had some pizza.
Too much pizza. That guy."
The bouncers were wetting themselves.
He has been partying too hard. You know, I said to one of the bouncers, "Do you mind if I go over and see if he's alright?" Is that?
Yeah.
Your funeral, mate.
There's also going to be some previews, interviews, and impressions, all from Rezzed. That'll be kind of trickling through over the
EGX
few...
Rezzed, that is this weekend, Saturday, yeah.
We're also hoping to get some Ratchet and Clank stuff, because that's happening.
Ooh.
I'm really excited for that game, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, really excited. I love Ratchet and Clank. Love it. And this is just like, obviously it's a reboot.
Yeah.
And yeah, need it in my life.
Spice up your life, as the Spice Girls would say. Tell us about the social medias, though.
So we're on Facebook, at /PushSquare. We're also on Twitter, at PushSquare. And this, what you listen to right now, that's going to be on iTunes, on the iTunes.
On the iTunes.
So if you could go on there, give us a subscribe.
And a 5-star review.
Yeah, 5-star.
We need the ego points.
Love it.
We're also on Stitcher.
Yes,
you
we
can
are.
review us on Stitcher. Again, ego points. Bloody love it. Share us with your friends. Tell us about it. Also, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PushSquare. Alex Stinton, still streaming like a madman.
Crazy person.
Did some Day of the Tentacle, did some Bully, or Canis Canum Edit, whatever the bloody hell it's called.
He did some really good Doom as well.
Yeah, Doom.
The Doom beta.
Streamed a Doom beta. Same beta as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've got all these pronunciations right.
Mate. Sammy, still doing his preview videos. There's a preview for Uncharted 4 up on the YouTube channel. Again, it's embedded in the article that's on the site, so you can go and do both if you want.
Happy days.
Go and do that.
Make it light, nice and easy.
Finally,
Finally,
we have started a new series on YouTube since the last episode called I've Never Played. In it, I'm forcing Mr. Tarrant to play through Uncharted Drake's Fortune. In fact, after we finish recording this, we're going to record a bit more. A new episode went up today, half an hour long. You can see us. We're on the screen, on a little camera in the corner.
Hello.
And I'm just sort of exposing him to it, and we're going to play through the whole thing.
Just flashing Drake at me.
Just flashing images of Nathan Drake and Elena, and hopefully it's going to get a lot better. But make sure you subscribe on YouTube, listen on iTunes, review on Stitcher, go to pushsquare.com. This is the best PlayStation website on the internet, and if anyone says it isn't, you can punch them in the face. That's a rule. Thank you very much, Tarrant, for joining me.
Thank you very much, Potter.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon.
Thank you for listening to the Push Square Podcast. For the latest PlayStation news, reviews, and features, visit www.pushsquare.com.